Maybe. Here's why. Last year, G2 ran this comp, but some people theorized that it was because Icy, who, while a good player, was not a superstar duelist like Jogamo is, was not the greatest player. So they thought that once you have a star duelist like Jogamo, who, again, a consensus top 5 duelist in the world, why would you not put him on duelist? Well, the answer is honestly pretty simple. After the fuel nerfs, Viper lasts about 13 seconds for her wall, and let me tell you from experience, that is not a good thing. 13 seconds isn't a long time at all, or so my girlfriend tells me, so you want to play that Harbor alongside, and not only is that great for stall, but again, when that fuel runs out, you can cycle walls, get the fuel back up online. But then you might ask, well, why are they playing Gecko? Obviously, Teo needs to be played. Again, Icebox is a map that is mostly about planting the bomb and denying the other team from planting the bomb. So obviously Teo, not only just because he's overpowered, but because he excels at that, is going to be used. But why Gecko? And it's pretty simple. As I said before, Icebox is a map where it's about plant and plant denial. So having someone who can plant for you in Wingman, who can deny the plant in Mosh, and then of course the blind that is so good on an open map like Icebox is very, very appreciated. Killjoy obviously needs no explanation. You cannot really play Icebox without a Killjoy because of how impactful her turret is at trying to deny lurks. Remember, this is peak Vice meta that we're in right now, and Killjoy is still overwhelmingly the favorite. During peak Cypher meta, Killjoy was still overwhelmingly the favorite. But how does it work exactly? After all, who's going to create the space like a Jet would? Who's going to frag out? Who's going to be that star? Who's going to entry for the team? Well, let's go ahead and take a look right here at how this comp works, and then you can decide if this is the future of Valorant. I, of course, am the future of Valorant as long as you hit that subscribe button, so go ahead and get me to 10K, and let's get into it. Now let's see how they try and execute on attack. After all, no duelist for the space. Now, Oxy's up on yellow, but Vic is getting very aggressive here. Forces G2 to re-clear the space in a second here with that Dizzy. Again, Dizzy is a very good blind for Icebox, right? A lot of angles. Icebox is a pretty open map, to be quite honest with you. A lot of angles get cleared by the Dizzy. Now, G2 still look like they want to go here. However, once they see that Oxy's up here in this position, on yellow, they go ahead and back off. Production really wants us to know, by the way, that Jogamo used Wingman and didn't pick it up. So Wingman will have a tragic farewell, as you can see here. But they're going to go ahead and go over towards A. But I assume your first question was, what are they going to do without a duelist on attack? How are they going to entry? How will they make that space and force their way onto the bomb site? And the answer is quite simple. Communism. As you can see here, 3 people are about to get on rope, but notice the Harbor wall, again, that Harbor Viper coming into play. If you just had Viper, you would have had to go onto site with no smokes. But the communism entry, as 3 people just get on rope and force their way into this site. As you can see, Net is also, because of that Harbor wall, forced to wait, not able to try and get a trade off of Mitch's death. So G2 are now in a 5v4 retake. They feel pretty good. And the best thing about what they do here is they have their idea in their head, which is, hey, Jogamo, we love you, buddy. You're going to probably die here. You're going to die on site. We're going to play post-plant spam. Because looking at their comp, and keep in mind, this isn't just for this round, this is kind of their idea for the map. Looking at their comp, they have 4 mollies. You obviously have the Teo rockets, but you also have Viper molly, Gecko molly, and KJ mollies that are all going to be able to be used in post-plant. So they want to be able to back off, maybe leave Jogamo as that sacrificial lamb, but back off and just wait. Also, the color on this video is weird. I changed it, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But let's go ahead and take a look at another round. C9 beat them, and then G2 called a timeout to have this eco round strategy worked up. And to be honest, C9 kind of play right into their hands on this eco. Obviously, Zeppa close against 3 Stingers isn't going to really work out too well for him. He goes 1 for 1. But then Mitch just kind of commits to a crouch spray duel. Now, obviously, C9 with the gun advantage are not content going 1 for 1. That is very bad for them. But the plus side is they took out both of the Smokes players on the side of G2. The issue is, why do Smokes exist? Leave your answer in the comments real quick, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But the answer is, Smokes exist so that you don't have to clear literally every angle. And look at what they do here. Icebox is a map where it's not that crucial to have smokes. I'm not going to be wrong. You're obviously not running a no smokes comp, but that's why Solo Viper is somewhat usable, and you can still have this wall B and execute onto A even without the Harbor because there aren't that many angles to clear. So G2 simply clear the angles by using some of Jagomo's utility by using the molly right there, right? That forces him to not be able to deny plant. And then right there, with the Dizzy, you've gotten yourself into a nice 2v3 situation where you have your ult online for Jagomo. He uses it right here. But Vic, great job there to get the kill. Doesn't see Leaf though. And that was the big issue. He thinks he's there, but he didn't get any confirmation. Then Leaf gets both kills, a wonderful clutch. But that's a great way that shows, again, G2 want to back off, and that's how you play icebox. You back off after you plant the bomb. You play spam. You play mollies. You maybe have a lurk go through mid. But you don't stay on site much on icebox, to be quite honest with you. G2 with an incredible Thrifty. Let's look at another round. Now, G2 are going to try and hit A here. The only person on site is actually the Harbor in Mitch. He's in this weird little kind of off-angle corner. It's honestly an off-angle that's used so commonly that it's almost an on-angle. Realistically, however, it is still a weird corner. Now, Jagomo is going to ult in. And again, I know that I mentioned earlier that Gecko is really good on icebox. I personally am a really big Gecko believer, but a lot of teams elect to play Sova or the double initiator if you're going with Solo Viper with Sova and someone else. Sova KO or Teo KO have both become decently popular on icebox. However, KJO goes ahead. You gain the space on the side of G2. The pick comes down as well. Right? So you have a tiny bit of control. Again, you don't really have to entry onto this site because you can just plant the bomb in your pit and back up like they've been doing. But the reason they're waiting here, there are two of them. Number one, they want the salvos to come back online. But number two, you're trying to fake like you went somewhere else. That's the reason this KJ Molly is about to come in on the side of Leaf here. He's going to throw this to try and break the mid turret and make C9 think, oh, they could be anywhere. Right? The issue is Zeppa is right here, so he just breaks the molly before it can pop, and then Jog is forced to kind of use his ult here, clears the site, because you don't have that pressure of a lurker, and they didn't lurk too much this game, to be quite honest with you, but again, you're able to plant the bomb with Wingman in the pit, and after this, it's almost impossible, to be honest, for C9 to win. I mean, yes, it's a 3v4, but it's a 3v4 where you have to go into a Viper's pit. Very, very difficult to get done here. And yeah, G2 are going to win this round. And after this, to be quite honest with you, they start taking over. Now on pistol round, C9 are going B, and they really need to win this being down 4-8. I think it's a great indication of how both these teams see the game when you look at pistol round and you see 4 classics on the side of G2, the statistically better way to win, and 4 ghosts on the side of C9, which is kind of the traditional way to play. Now, Oxy, again, C9 have a duelist, so Oxy goes in first. But with that wall, they also play Harbor. But again, the Viper wall's up. The Viper wall's going to go down really quickly. This is not a traditional Harbor wall at all. The traditional wall is pretty much almost on top of the Viper wall. This wall is so you can go ahead and fight towards Snowman, towards this area. But in doing that, you open yourself up to dying before the bomb even gets planted. And as you can see here, I don't really like that idea, to be quite honest with you. I think that if you want to push something after plant, then maybe that's fine. But honestly, Icebox isn't really a map that you need to do that. You can kind of just back off. And G2 win the pistol there. I mean, great job just beating C9 strategy. But also, I don't think C9 strategy was that good necessarily. I would make me feel really good if you subscribe, though. On the bonus round, C9 do the standard molly that you're going to do. Try and break the turret of your opponent. It gets recalled here by Leaf, who's in the area. He sees the molly. And honestly, C9 look like they're prepped up for a pretty good round, right? Just going to go ahead, hit B, but the stall is so good with Harbor Viper. I've harped on this, got called an idiot by people who then now look like idiots because this is the meta, but again, you're able to do that Harbor wall, kind of stall them out, and this is something that I really wish C9 had done more of, where you tried to do that against G2, who didn't have that necessarily space maker, but C9, especially on attack, did some weird stuff with their Harbor walls, right? Even this one that's more traditional, when you get that first blood on Jonah P, takes so much space. Again, a normal Harbor wall is pretty much just like the Viper wall, where it gives you just enough space to go ahead and plant the bomb and back up. But that's not how C9 played the map, which in my opinion is kind of incorrect. Oxy is going to be fighting for it here. If you just push Jagomo here, I truly think they win the round. Now, did that change the game? Probably not, right? They just have another round or two, but Oxy dying to Jagomo here is huge, and here is why. See, look at this lurk up here, up mid. Keep note of this. It's a 3v4 on site right now because of the lurk. Now, after these fights and these trades come through, it ends up being technically a 2v2. But again, the numbers here are not real. This guy isn't able to stop the defuse. And if you'll notice, it says Giacomo's defusing, but he's over here. How can this be? Wingman. He turns a 2v2, which is technically a 2v1, into a 3v2 because he's able to stick, which is technically a 3v1 on site right now. Let me show you what I mean even more. Zeppelin dies to Valen. And again, in a normal 2v1 situation where you're trying to go ahead defuse the bomb, there's a chance someone's sticking and then it's an actual one-on-one gunfight. But that's not the case here. Now, don't get me wrong, that didn't really matter. He couldn't have gotten someone off that defuse if they were sticking anyways with where he was. But Wingman is so good in those situations. In the post plan, he makes things so much easier for you. In my opinion, one of the best initiators to have on Icebox. I know it's not very common to use him. I think that he'll be getting more use once the Teo nerfs come through, but we will see. Now, it is 5-12, but G2 are not NRG, so they will be able to close this one out. Giacomo is opping here, which is something really interesting. Obviously, an initiator isn't something normally you would use to op. I know I did just make an NRG reference. 2024 NRG used to do that sometimes when the other team already knew they had the op. Demon 1 would op on one side, and then they would have someone like Ethan on initiator op on the other to try and make people think, oh, the op's on A, they would go B and get op by the other person. Obviously, that didn't have anything to do with G2 because they don't have a duelist here. However, the Killjoy ult comes out, and now it's a 5v5 retake, right? It's C9, get the bomb down. Like, this is going to be difficult for G2 to really get into. However, Giacomo is able to help them with the Gecko ult. His Gecko ults haven't found as much value as they could have, right? He's jumping in a dead guy right here. Not his fault that time, just there could have been more value found, and I think most of his Gecko ults, if they continue to run this, which I do think that they will until it gets, like, if it gets hard anti-strat and a team kind of takes advantage of it, I think they'll keep running it. I would like to see some improvement on the Gecko. But G2 overall, if you have one takeaway from this video, I think that it's they are playing a wonderful style of Valorant, and until someone stops them, I don't see why this comp won't work. Let me know what you think in the comments about if the duelist role is actually done on Icebox. If you like G2, here are 2 videos about them. Hope you have a wonderful day. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.